Hello, dear viewers. Welcome to the finale of Frankenstein Week. There is an angry mob outside my window. Apparently they think I'm an abomination beyond imagination. And they're probably right. But just in case that happens, we're going to get this last episode done because, dang it, I'm finishing this month of monsters. We're nearly to the Halloween point, and we're going to make it. Today we're talking about The Bride of Frankenstein. Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to the month of monsters, Frankenstein Week. This is the grand finale, and of course we have to talk about one of the most famous movie sequels of all time, 1935's The Bride of Frankenstein. Elsa Lanchester stars as the bride, but only in one scene of the movie is she actually the Bride of Frankenstein. An iconic character design with that thunderbolt hair, the overall dress look, the mummified body wraps. Iconic scene. She only appears for 2 minutes in the movie. It's insane. But, that being said, The Bride of Frankenstein is a pop culture icon, and she's always seen with Frankenstein in a lot of merchandise. In fact, we've already looked at the Mego version of The Bride of Frankenstein, but today we're going to be talking about the Jada Toys Bride of Frankenstein, as well as the color version of Frankenstein, which is mostly the same as the black and white we looked at earlier. This Jada Toys figure should not have to do anything besides hold an arm up and scream. However, this figure can do more insane poses than most Spider-Man and Power Rangers figures. Don't believe me? We're going to take a look at the Jada Toys Bride of Frankenstein, and also Frankenstein, on the finale of Frankenstein Week.
So the box for Frankenstein's monster looks the same as the other Jada Toys boxes, but I still like it. Of course, we have a nice portrait of the Frankenstein monster on the side of the box. The back features the entire lineup of the figures, and the opposite side features artwork of Frankenstein, Bride, and Creature. So now we covered the black and white edition of this figure earlier in the week, and that's going to give you more detail than this part of the video because I just wanted to cover the color version before we look at the bride herself. This one's done in a nice green color. I like the overall look, and I like the extra shading of the black paint on top of the green to give it a bit of a wash that gives it more detail. Overall, the color scheme is done really nice, and that texture comes through even more so in the green than it did in the black and white version. Down to the pants, you can see that there's nice grays mixed in with the browns to give it a more realistic texture, and I really appreciate paintwork like that because it gives the figure more life than just being a toy. So articulation's the exact same. So he's got the ball joint in the neck, the usual kind of movement. Shoulders that move out, a little stiff. They move 360, but they're really tight. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow. He's got a wrist swivel and it pivots. He's got hips that turn left and right, as well as hips that move out, forward, thigh swivel, double jointed knee, which is actually a pretty good range. And in addition to that, he does have his ankle joint, which allows him to turn left and right, as well as forward and back. He of course has the same alternate hands and alternate expression as the black and white version, and it still looks good here. He does of course come with the two different shackles, which I laid out this time so you can see which one's shorter and which one's longer. And here's a demo of how to attach them. The shackles actually open and you clip them over the wrists, which I think is really cool and gives it kind of a nice tactile play feel to it. Whereas some others, you'd have to remove the hands and slip them over that. So yeah, with the extra length on the chain does mean you can pose while being chained, which is pretty awesome. And having this Frankenstein next to the Neca Frankenstein, you can see the two different approaches, the more realistic with the Neca, the more cartoony with the Jada, but the Jada does have a lot more range of movement, so there's really a place in a collection for both of these. At least that's what I keep telling myself as I justify this. Now this Jada Frankenstein does stand at about Marvel Legends size, so you can see next to Ghost Rider, he doesn't look out of place. And of course this is the same size scaling as the one with the table, which we looked at previously, and you could put the color version on the table if you wish. Now let's get to the star of the show, the Bride of Frankenstein. As you can see, similar style packaging as we've seen before. Really nice artwork of the bride on the side of the package. You can also see that we've looked at all 4 figures from the back of the box this month. Hooray! And then we have the same artwork on the side. And here is the Bride of Frankenstein. Now this is a character that does not need a lot of mobility. But as you can see, they gave her a fully clothed dress, which doesn't restrict articulation. I really love the head sculpt on her. It's just got that look to it. It's got the intensity of the Bride of Frankenstein design as we've seen. And I think it just turns out really great. You can see the arms have a nice sculpted detail of the bandages as well as a paint wash over it in order to bring out that depth of detail and that is fantastic. And you can see that the actual dress lays kind of natural. It is a giant piece of fabric, which is appropriate for the character. Now, the Bride of Frankenstein figures only really need to do a few poses. For example, the hand reaching out pose, or the screaming pose, because honestly, that's mostly what she did. And of course, the pose where she stands there menacingly with the two tower pole things next to her, which is a nice inclusion with real metal chains. Now, the deep secret of this figure is that her head removes, and the cloth that wraps around the body is totally removable from the figure. Looking at this Bride of Frankenstein figure, you're probably like, well, that's cool that they sculpted and painted her from the neck down, even though it's under the dress. And I say, that's not even the coolest part about it. Because yes, we have that same sculpting and painting detail that was done to the arms to the rest of the figure, which is impressive. But because the head is removable and because the dress is easily removable, they built an entire action figure under here. And as you can see, they did not skimp on any of the details. The legs, fully detailed and painted. The back of the figure, fully detailed and painted. I think they totally intended you to remove the dress of this figure to truly experience the articulation range she has. For example, she has a ball-jointed neck which moves left, right, up, and down, shoulders that move out, shoulders that move 360, bicep swivel, elbow bend, elbow swivel, as well as a wrist pivot and a swivel, a torso ball joint, as well as hips that move out, hips that move forward, thigh swivel, a double-jointed knee that goes really far, as well as an ankle pivot up, down, left, right. This means your Bride of Frankenstein figure can pose as good as a Power Ranger figure or any kind of superhero action figure, and it actually poses better than some of those figures do. She also includes two alternate hands, which I can think actually fit the martial arts theming of her articulation more so than the actual standing there with the dress vibe. And as you can see, she can actually crouch down into flying kick poses. She can do all kinds of things that you don't expect a Bride of Frankenstein figure to do, which is what is amazing. It's not just that she has a huge range of articulation. Sure, she's not more articulated than most Spider-Man figures, but it's the Bride of Frankenstein, the lady that's known for standing there menacingly and screaming occasionally. You did not need to go this hard with the articulation, Jada, but I'm so glad you did because this is an amazing action figure. On top of that, scaling-wise, she fits in the scale of Marvel Legends. As you can see, she's a bit shorter than Ghost Rider. She also looks pretty good next to the April O'Neil, which the April O'Neil is a larger figure, but does not have the same range of movement this bride does. And of course, she is scaled properly with Frankenstein's monster. So overall, Frankenstein's monster is a great figure, but the Bride of Frankenstein is taking a character who is known for doing very little and very minimal and giving her a complete range of articulation beyond some other figures on the market. And that is why she's actually one of the greatest action figures I've ever owned, because you do not expect her to do much, and yet she does so much of that articulation. And on top of that, if you wanted to pose her with the dress, it's doable. That dress has enough flexibility, you can extend her legs in any direction, and that is just really, really impressive. And impressive is what I can call Jada Toys' first line of monsters. While we're still waiting on more to be released, these 4 came out last year and just blew my mind with how cool they are. They're not as detailed, they're not as realistic as the Neca figures, but they're so much more fun to play with because the joints feel sturdy, they have double joints, they have crazy ankle articulation. They can pose like any other action figure, but they're the universal monsters, and you can get them to do poses they never could have done before. And that is what is impressive about this line, and that is what is in particular impressive about the Bride of Frankenstein, and that's why she was closing out Frankenstein Week.
Well, that was it. Jada, Bride of Frankenstein, one of the greatest action figures to ever exist in my eyes, because she should never have that much articulation, but she does. It's amazing. There are 2 days left in the month of Monsters. We have plans, but that mob has gotten a lot closer. And I think I'm starting to smell smoke. I'm gonna have to figure this out. We still got 2 more days to go, and I haven't pre-recorded anything else yet, because, you know, Frankenstein, transformations, mummies, werewolves, vampires. It's been a month, but we're gonna finish this. But I should probably get out of here. Seems like the place is on fire. Good luck, everybody. I hope you're safe, because I don't know if I am. Stay tuned for tomorrow, if I'm still here.